everybody. I'm Raina from Garden District Bookshop, and I'm super excited to welcome Katie and T here via Zoom with us tonight. As you may know, I assume Katie Newland is a writer and sports enthusiast. A Season with Mom, Love, Loss, and Ultimate Baseball Adventure is her first book. And I, having lost not my mom, but my father a few years ago, I really connected with this book. And I sincerely hope it is not Katie's last book. T. Martin, who will be in conversation with Katie tonight, you may know as a co-proprietor of Commander's Palace, but here at Garden District Bookshop, we know her as a friend and fellow book lover. So I'm very excited for her to be here in conversation with Katie tonight. And I am just going to take a step back and let Katie and T take it away.
Well, thank you, Raina. I'm going to just jump in here and hope that I can get this focus as much on Katie as I possibly can, because we were thrown together by, I think, a bunch of mutual friends, and have since discovered a bunch of things we have in common. But what I want to focus on is the fact that I got the book recently, really just the other day, and thought, oh my God, I have to hurry up and read this. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, I had a lot going on. I had absolutely no intention of reading this entire book. I thought, oh, I can speed read, get through it, figure it out. I sat down and in 4 hours read every word. And I said this to Katie, I think in an email. I do not know you well enough to be proud of you, but I am so damn proud of you. Mm-hmm. I think this is an extraordinary thing that you've done. And there's so many unique things about it. I want to get into asking you about it because I want to know, and I hope y'all want to know some of the things I'm asking, and throw in questions in the chat if you want to, but I'm just going to get into a bunch of my questions. I hope that's okay, Katie, but I want you to say hello to a bunch of friends if you want.
No, that sounds great. I'm just so grateful to you that you agreed to do this. This is just going to be a blast. And thank you everyone for coming. I'm super grateful that you took time out of your evening to spend time with us. So,
well, make a wish, everybody, because this is Katie's first, I think, Zoom book interview. So
it is.
That's exciting. So I hope a bunch of you all have read the book, and if not, too bad, we're going to ruin some of it for you. But Katie, how did you decide to go on this journey? Did you really decide in an instant?
Oh gosh, it's such a great question. Well, the original idea for the dream happened when I was 13 years old, and my mom and I and Melissa, who's on this Zoom call, and my dad were sitting in Harry Carey's restaurant in Chicago. We had gone to see our beloved Cubs play. And all of a sudden, my mom looked around and said, let's go see all 30 ballparks. And she shrieked, and the whole restaurant turned, and I hid. And I thought to myself, are we really going to do this thing? And sure enough, our love of baseball continued over the years, and we went to a bunch of ballparks. And then life got in the way, as it often does. And she passed away in 2009. And it wasn't until about 3 years later, when I got cancer, that I started to really think deeply about the things that we love in life and the things that we put off because something gets in the way, or we're too busy, or we don't have the time. And it was after the completion of my treatment where I thought, you know what? I'm going to go do that thing we wanted to do. I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm going to go after it. And so it was about, I guess, 2 years after my cancer treatment where I finally decided to do it.
Wow, that's extraordinary. And, if y'all are like me and you have been able to read the book, and y'all probably do know Katie as a person, but you can see there where she just minimized a whole lot of hardship in life in about 20 seconds. But it's just an extraordinary trip. So you had time to think about doing this. Why did you do it?
I just didn't want to wait anymore, right? I think a lot of people right now are sitting in their homes and have been quarantined for a year. And I think they've missed out on life. And I spent a year of grueling cancer treatment, and I missed out on hanging out with friends. I missed out on going out to eat at restaurants. And I think, like many people out there, you look around and you think, like, I want to go live. I want to go live my life. I want to go connect with people. I want to go do the things I love, and I love baseball. And so I think that's what did it for me.
Well, it's extraordinary to take on something like that. But I got to say for a minute, so one of the things we have in common is that we're both what my family calls restaurant brats. You just grow up running around restaurants. And tell me how that affected you. You think we both have restaurant moms. And did you resent the time away? I mean, that's the obvious question. So what were the good and bad things about that?
Yeah, of course. I often wondered, like, where's mom? Why is she at the restaurant? Why is she not here helping me with my math flashcards? And then there were times where I thought, oh man, I got leftovers from the restaurant tonight. Like, I'm eating good tonight, filet mignon, little trout meuniere. And then there were times where, she wasn't home and I was eating Captain Crunch. So I think there were definitely, like anything in life, there were some affordances to being in the restaurant business, and then some constraints to having a mom be in the restaurant business. Tell me about you, though. I mean, I know you have plenty of stories of growing up in the restaurant business as well. How was that for you?
Well, my mom was sort of the original quality time versus quantity time. So it worked out for me. And she took a few opportunities when I said, well, you're not here tonight. She said, well, fine, come to work with me tomorrow. And that was always her shtick. And I would go to work, for about half a day and go, okay, I'm done, So she'd call your bluff a little bit. But anyway.
I love it. Yeah, I certainly found whoever didn't show up for the restaurant that day I took on that job, or my brothers and sisters, filled in that role. So I can think back many times where I was standing in the kitchen, taking deliveries, produce deliveries, and forging my mom's name on a check. And, I was maybe 10 years old, signing checks, telling people where to put the produce. And I think you gain a lot of character growing up in the restaurant business.
So a big part of this journey, though, and there you were with your mom while she's doing her thing, was for you, as you say in the very beginning of the book, to figure out who you were by figuring out who she was. So can you look back at that restaurant time? I mean, I get the love of food part, but were there other things about it that revealed who she was and who you were?
Sure, certainly. I think, obviously, like you said, the food piece. I mean, my mom was magic in the kitchen. She never followed a recipe. I think much like your mom was saying about her mom, so your grandmother, right? Like, there were no recipes. She just tasted it, a little of this, little of that. She loved that. It was an art form for her. She was a very creative soul. And I think that's where her creativity shined. So I think that was one part of it. And then I think another part was that she loved people. And I don't know an industry where you are surrounded by and connected to people more than in the restaurant business. And I think that was a big draw for her. And I also think that's why she loved baseball, because she loves people and she loves connecting with people. She loves learning about people's stories. She loves helping people. She loves listening to people. And I think that was a big part of what I learned in sort of uncovering her life through the baseball trip.
A lot of this being around people and listening to people, she managed to not reveal much about herself.
Exactly. And isn't that interesting, right? I think, she preferred to be the person that was listening than to tell her story or share her story. And I think that's a big part of why I did this journey, was because I wanted to know my mom and I wanted to know who she was at the core. And I think one of the greatest parts about this journey is connecting with her friends, many of whom are on tonight and who have shared their stories with me and who knew a part of my mom that I didn't know. And I think that's really been the beauty of doing the baseball trip and learning about her is the reconnecting with her friends.
So interesting.
I can understand her.
Yes, absolutely. So your dad was managing through all this. I mean, busy mom, busy dad.
No way to just I can't give it to
So
go
how
over
did all that
there.
work out?
It always goes over there.
Yes.
So you can't eat.
Maybe that's one of my brothers or sisters chiming in. Yes, they were certainly both busy. They both are very caring people and chose caring professions. And I think I had models for what it means to be compassionate, what it means to give of yourself. And I'm so grateful that I had the parents that I had who gave me that gift of seeing that day in and day out. And even though they weren't around maybe as much as some of my other friends' parents, I realized that when they were around, those moments were extra special. So for example, when my dad would throw the ball with me, when I'd wait by the door for him, even though he had a long day at work, when my mom and I would watch WGN and the Cubs play, it made those moments even more special because I knew they were tired, because I knew they had given to so many others that day. And then they were choosing to spend that time with me, albeit short sometimes. But it was quality over quantity. I think what you said earlier, T.
Are you willing to share what your dad thinks about the book?
I would love to, but I haven't actually had a chance to talk. I talked to him yesterday. And so he's super excited about it. And he's actually in a nursing home now. And he said, well, if I could drive over there to the bookstore. So I think I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about it. And I've shared pieces and stories with him. And the thing about my mom and my dad is that they're proud of me my whole life, no matter what I did. So whether I write a book that's a bestseller, let's hope, or whether the book bombs out and, the only people who bought it are the people that are on here tonight. My dad and my mom, I know, are so incredibly proud of me. And that's a gift that they've given me my whole life.
Yeah. But you clearly, whether you were trying to or not, have accomplished a lot more than just your own sort of self-discovery in this. And the book is set up in a way, that there's kind of lessons here. Talk to me about figuring out that format.
It's interesting. I didn't go on the journey thinking I wanted to write a book. It was never in my mind that I'm going to do this journey. I'm going to write a book. People would mention it to me along the way. I think the anchor on SportsCenter said, well, are you going to turn it into a book? And I thought, why is she asking me that? No, I have no plans to turn it into a book. And all along the way, people just kept saying, this is a book, you need to write the book. And so when I finally decided, what the universe has told me over and over again, you need to write the book. It's time to go write the book. And what I did was I actually looked across the thousands of photographs that I had from the ballparks. And I looked at each ballpark and all the pictures I'd taken that day. And, I had just come out of a PhD program where I learned how to be a qualitative researcher. And so as a social scientist, I approached the book in that way. And I looked across all the images and I looked to see what themes emerged out of that ballpark that day. And so the themes really came from the images that I took, because as we all know in photography, where we point the lens says a lot about who we are and what we're trying to capture, right? So I used that as my guide. And then from there, I would sit down and I would just generate any idea or thought I had around that theme. And I would spend a couple of days just dumping stuff, stories, ideas, thoughts, and then I would put it away. And then I would revisit it and see what here is, speaking to me. And then I'd pull it out and I'd write a little bit around that. And so I think actually the writing of the book was a really unique process. And I think it was really fun to be able to allow the themes and the stories to emerge as I was writing. So people have asked me did you have a plan? What stories you wanted to tell in which letter? And I had no plan. Just like when I went to do the ballpark tour, I had no plan, which is counter to everything I do in my life. There's always a plan. There's always a plan. And as I'm starting to realize now, it's when I don't have a plan that magic happens. So I'm learning to let go and do that, which my mom was trying to get me to do my whole life. And I think that was part of writing the book. That process came out in writing the book.
And how about it being the letters, to her?
Yeah, I think I chose letters because I think letters are intimate. And I think it allows the reader to eavesdrop on a conversation between my mom and I. So it's not me, just writing a memoir or a book about me and my mom. It's me talking to my mom. And I think that's a very different experience for the reader than a traditional memoir.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I just wanted to talk to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to tell her what I saw and what I thought. And I wanted to tell her the things that I didn't tell her when she was here. And I don't know that I could have done that if I had used any other format than letters.
Yeah. Well, you did it in this whole book and your story, but the way you've put it together is extremely powerful, in my opinion. And I think it's a gift to the universe, and I think it's extremely healing.
Oh.
But part of that was you were, while you minimized, no doubt, some of her pain and your pain and all of that, you were also willing to be a little transparent and talk about some things that were a little hard. Now you had to put a little, none of us are perfect, and we have to give up that illusion that our parents are perfect, but that had to be tough. I mean, you talked to your mom in a way you're like, okay, Mom, these are some things about you I didn't love. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think, like you said, none of us are perfect. And I think when we're reckoning with our identities and when we're thinking deeply about who we are and what we want in this life, we have to embrace all the good and all the bad. We have to look under that hood and we have to look and see what's there. What have I got? What are the things that I've done in life that have maybe set me on this course? What are the things I've done that have set me on a, maybe better course? And I think that if you're gonna write a book, and I told myself this, and I think I heard it from another writer, and I can't remember who, but if you're gonna write a book, you have to be your authentic self. You have to be vulnerable. You have to put it all out there, because if you don't, I'm not sure the reader is gonna believe you. And so I think that's the mentality I went into writing it, trying to be my authentic self, trying to be the most vulnerable I could. I think, my mom might cringe at a couple of places, but in the end, I think she already knew those things. I think I wasn't telling her anything she didn't already know. And I think she would be relieved to know that it's out there in some ways.
So you must have some relief in having been able to do that.
Yeah, I think when we come to terms with who we are, all the good and all the bad, it makes life that much more fulfilling. It puts us on a path, I think, clearer to being who we are meant to be in this world. And it sort of clears out the fog.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we all have some unanswered questions in life. And from the people that we love, and oftentimes, particularly our parents, and that can be awfully hard. What do you say to other people, because they're gonna ask you this question, about that? What do you advise if they're in a position that everybody's still alive and they can do something about that?
So say that again to you. Sorry.
So people have questions that their parents are maybe reluctant or not wildly communicative or whatever, or shut down in some certain way, and certain things they never got to talk about, as possibly was the case with you. And so people are going to ask you about that as you go through this book tour. And because of this book, what are you going to tell? Because there's a lot of people in the situation.
I'd say don't wait. Don't wait till it's too late. Just do it. No matter how scary it is, no matter how vulnerable it is, have that conversation. Do it. It's so worth it in the end, I think. It'll set you free.
Mm-hmm. But they're often worried about, okay, that other person would have talked to me about that if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think there's ways of communicating in where there's always better moments than others, right? I think there's always an opportunity to open a conversation and allow that person to know that you're there for them when they want to have that talk. So it doesn't have to be on your time frame or your timeline, but I think letting that person know that you're available and open, I think, is a big step towards opening up those lines.
Well, bravo for you for having figured all that out as a
I
younger
certainly don't have it figured out. How did you do it with your mom? I know,
so we're talking about death and these things, and I've read a bunch about it. A lot of my friends at this age are losing parents and whatnot. And it's I read something that people who have big troubles with their parents dying, had a lot of unresolved issues. I did with my mom a little bit. So, I mean, my God, about everything. We just did. We're a great communicator. So that was a great blessing. So I didn't have that problem. There was, occasionally a few questions she wanted to ask. As I was a young person, I wasn't quite ready to answer, but we worked through all that. So I was, kind of blessed in that way. But you see a lot of that not happening. So I that's why I applaud you, writing the book and doing what you did. And I know you've had those opportunities maybe a little more with your dad than your mom, and glad you got to write the letters to your mom. I think it's awesome. So we got these little, believe, be present, begin, be in the moment. Tell me about all those. I love them.
Well, I think what I realized at a baseball game is part of the reason why I love it is because when you're there, you're just in the moment, and it's an opportunity to be present, to be with the fans, to be with your thoughts. And I think baseball, unlike every other sport, there's the pace of the game allows you introspection. And so I think, for me, this ballpark tour was a meditative experience in many ways. And I think that's where the idea for the Bee came from. And also because my mom was just always saying, like, just be, Katie, just be. I noticed someone here on the side, I think it was Susie said, your mom never had a plan. And she's correct. She didn't, which is why I always had a plan. So I think being in a baseball game allows you to be in the moment and to scrap the plan.
Yeah. There's a note from somebody that worked for Cokie I'm seeing there. Anyway, Cokie Roberts and her mom, Lindy Boggs, and my mom were dear friends, and Cokie and I got to be dear friends. And I will tell you that she, I guess, knew how bad her health was. And I didn't. But she got really good at, she always was, but good at communicating things later. Like one day out of the blue, I got a text saying, T, I want to tell you how much I value our friendship. Well, thanks, Coke. How you doing? But it was sweet. And you understand it a little bit better now, but why not do that? And those things are so lovely.
Yeah, I think that was Annie. And I think Annie had the same sentiment as you do. And she didn't know either, but had been in, recent contact with her. And I know that she loved her very dearly. And she was a special woman for sure. And she told me every time she came to New Orleans, she loved going to Commanders.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but we would wait till late at night when everybody was gone, and then we would really talk. Because
she didn't know who she was. She always had to wonder what everybody around her was saying. But man, she would be doing this, and then she's like, "That's the last table." I'm like, "That's the last table, Coke." And then we had some fun. Tell me about the part that humor has in this whole process for you.
Gosh, I mean, I think just listening to you talk about that whole conversation with Cokie, I mean, humor is what gets us through life, right? I think if you don't have a sense of humor, you're going to struggle probably because there's a lot of darkness and a lot of challenges in life. But I think it's humor that gets us through it. So there are definitely some moments of humor throughout the book, and I'm so interested to hear on what part is everyone's favorite or what made people laugh. I've heard a lot about what made people cry. A lot of tears coming, through my phone in the last couple of days. And I'd love to know what makes people laugh about the book.
Well, let's do that. But tell me, what made your mom laugh?
Well, she loved to travel. And anytime she was in a new community with people and discovering, she didn't so much laugh as giggle. Like, she was a giggler. She loved to giggle. You know, she was just excited about life. My mom loved life. And I think that she always would tell me, you know, you need to have a sense of humor, Katie, because she thought I took life too seriously. And so I think she was definitely a giggler. And I think traveling brought out the best in her, for sure.
Was she right that you took life too seriously?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, you know, until I got cancer, I mean, here I was just plowing away in a PhD with my head down, you know, focused on this thing in front of me. And I was going to be the best that I could be in this program. And that's kind of how I've been my whole life. And then all of a sudden cancer comes and just says, knock, knock. I think you got to change up your plan here. And definitely, I think part of doing the baseball tour was, you know, realizing that what my mom was trying to tell me all along was right. That when you let go and you just be, and you don't take things so seriously, life is just such a fun and spectacular and wonderful place to be.
Well, sounds like an awful lot of it is going that way for you these days. I got a glimpse of your cute husband a few minutes ago. Sorry about the COVID wedding, but tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, I don't think I would have met that cute husband if I hadn't done the baseball trip. He's an avid baseball lover. We met online, actually. There's an article coming out tomorrow with Bumble, and I had never been online before dating. It was part of my reserved personality, I guess. And finally got convinced by my friends here on Zoom, Melissa and Rachel, my sister, to do it. And thank goodness I listened finally, because the first person I connected with is my now husband. And I met him, and a week later I turned off the app, and my friends thought I was crazy. They're like, that's not how Bumble works. You're supposed to go on a lot of dates. You're supposed to meet a lot of people. And I was like, but I like him. Why would I do that? And the rest was history. So I got lucky with him for sure.
That's amazing.
But I did wait a long time. I was in my 40s till I found him.
Oh, well, speaking of fun, consider myself an athlete back in the day. Tell me about that pitch.
Oh gosh, T. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. I think I made a mistake when I learned that I would be throwing out the first pitch. So I was in my hotel room when the email came in, and I instantly started Googling like first pitches, Wrigley Field. Sure enough, there was Michael Jordan on YouTube, and he botched it. He didn't he airmailed it, not even close. So I was like, okay, let me Google again. And it comes up Nolan Ryan. He's a major league pitcher. Airmails it. Didn't make it to the catcher. And I thought, there is no way I'm going to be able to do this. And so I got a little bit in my head. I started venturing towards the, let me process this. Let me think this out. The anxiety came out. And I think that was my moment during the tour where I had to really make a shift and say, you know what? This is not about where the ball goes, Katie. This is about walking onto Wrigley Field, the field you've been watching since you were a little kid with your mom, the last ballpark of 30 ballparks. And it doesn't matter where it goes. Detach from the outcome, let it go, enjoy the moment. And, the rest is history. I made it across the plate. So the technique worked. The let go did work. Thanks, Mom. But it was
what kind of pitch was it? Because weren't you like a softball? You talked about windmills. So did you do that?
Oh no, there was no windmill involved. No, just a regular old baseball pitch. It was funny. I was on a radio talk earlier today, and the guy said, "Man, that form on the mound, that high kick." And so I had practiced playing baseball as a kid in my yard. over and over and over again. I pretended like I was on the mound at Wrigley, pretending like I was in the bottom of the ninth. So I had a lot of practice as a kid,
Yeah.
throwing out the baseball, and it was really a dream come true.
So you were on 7th Street. I was on 2nd Street.
Yeah.
Where were you on 7th?
7th and Coliseum. So I was just a block or two away from Commanders, and
Oh my God. So, I mean, it's so similar. I grew up with all these boys, Dickie Brennan and Tommy Brennan and Nikki. And anyway, we're all in the yard. But you were playing with some young boys too, who helped maybe in this process of the first pitch.
yes, I did. In fact, Peyton, who I grew up with, who the Mannings actually lived across the street from us when we were little, before they moved to First Street. They were on 7th Street, and he and my brothers would play football in our yard, the same yard where I threw out that first pitch, or would pitch pretending like I was on the mound at Wrigley. And when he heard about the journey, he made a phone call, and that's how I got to throw out the pitch. The Cubs contacted me, and again, he resurfaced with the book and was so generous to write the foreword for the book. I thought it was a fantastic foreword. Yeah. And I think that, he and his entire family are just generous souls. And I think that they have given so much to the New Orleans community. And I think that they're just beloved. And I feel so grateful that he was a part of the story.
Yeah, that's amazing. They did live on 1st and I lived on 2nd, and I think they left a dog or something. So all those little boys were always in front of our house. I mean, they were the little Manning boys, and then, here they come. So exciting to now watch Cooper's young guy, Arch. I'm sure you know that. Right?
He's actually coming on a recruit trip to Texas, UT in June. So everybody's fired up in Austin about it.
Well, it's exciting. And I know they've kept him out of the media. So
that's
anyway,
good.
Trying anyway.
Good.
So, you are, I think there's so many things that are sort of revealed in layers, it sort of slowly comes out, which was, I don't know if you intended it or not, but I hope so, because it was masterful. But there's really a lot of audiences for this. I mean, sometimes a book's sort of a woman's book or a man's book, and I'm sure Raina can speak to that and all of us, but this is not that. I mean, but then it's sports, and then you can speak to all, was that intentional? Because this is a lot of audiences for this.
I don't think it was intentional. I think I was just speaking my truth. And one of the most beautiful parts about this experience has been the amount of men who have reached out to me, who have read the book and who have said, I couldn't put it down. I loved it because, I thought, oh, it's, a mother-daughter book. And yes, it's about baseball, but it's about so much more than baseball. And I love the fact that that so many people are enjoying it, that it's such a wide audience, that it can touch people, whether you're a father-son duo who love baseball, whether you're a father-daughter duo that loves baseball. I don't think it really matters, because I think the themes in the book resonate with all people across genders.
Yeah, well, it's true. So let's have a little more fun, because whether you know it or not, this is going to be made into a movie. And so we need to know who should play you, who's going to play your mom, your sisters. Come on. I mean, it's just obvious to me that this will happen.
I don't know.
Come on.
I will see. Well, who do you think should play the characters?
Like to think about, that deserves some serious thought. I mean, I'm a Sandra Bullock fan, I think she could do it right. She might even be able to make that pitch. I don't know.
Yeah, she crushed the blind side.
Patty Clarkson. Come on. Patty Clarkson. Gotta be Patty Clarkson.
Definitely Patty.
A little too old for you, but
I love it. Speaking of sports, I read that you had a hand in starting the volleyball program at Newman, and it was single-handedly probably the best part of my experience at Newman was playing volleyball. So tell me about that.
Well, they just didn't let us girls play sports. And that was aggravating to me, because I was like you, throwing a ball, trying to get my mother to play ping pong after she came home from the restaurant, bless her heart. Just anything I could do. So I went to the wonderful the head of the school, high school, Teddy Catone, late Teddy Catone, and I said, I want to play sport. And I would like us to have a basketball team to play against other schools. And the only thing we had that we did do against other schools, the girls, the boys had all the wonderful teams. And, all the, Sean Toohey and all these wonderful athletes were in my class. But so anyway, he said, well, I think you're right. Because I went to him, I had a whole plan. And I said, girls can learn a lot from sports, I mean, we can learn about leadership and, whatever my little pitch was. And he agreed. And he said, well, you have to petition the board. He said, but I think you should do volleyball because you might have a better chance because it's more ladylike. I went, I don't know anything about volleyball, but okay. So my good friend Cindy Ripner and I petitioned the board and started the team, and we were just awful. And we had little polyester gym uniforms that we ironed numbers onto. I mean, you want to talk about smell bad. Anyway, and then I talked Joanne Skirtich, she was the brand new sub PE teacher, into coaching. And I don't know if you know this, but she went on to be the winningest coach in the history of Louisiana, period. She won more championships, if you take all sports thrown together, than any man, woman, or whatever. So
that's amazing. I love that. She was my volleyball coach as well. And she was for sure like a mother figure, I think, to so many of us.
I can remember her telling me that she would say to Coach Billy Fitzgerald, who was the great coach of the boys teams, she would say to him when she first started, she says, now, why do we do warm-ups? He's like, well, Joanne, because, we want to get their muscles warm and they won't get hurt. Like, we didn't know it. She didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. She went on to be such an extraordinary coach and dear friend of mine. So that was,
I love that story, T. That's just, I never had heard that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter, but the team went on to do great stuff, and girls did learn about leadership. So that was good. So
yes, well, thank you, because a big piece of my high school experience it would have been missing if it hadn't been for you.
I would have happened. But anyway, and saying that some of your mom's friends were from McGee. My best friend at the time went to McGee's, and then we would play each other. And Joanne was best friends with the coach of McGee's, so it's quite the big thing. They would beat us all the time. But anyway, not in later years. So
I love those little rivalries.
It's good stuff.
They are. Well, my question to you is, have you played pickleball yet?
Yes, I was playing pickleball for about 2 years pre-COVID, and I didn't play much during, but we just picked it up again outdoors, and I'm really into it. I hear you play pickleball.
I mean, is it not the greatest? It's like ping pong meets tennis. Yes. I heard you say you played ping pong. I mean, I'm an avid ping pong player, although I don't get around to playing it much anymore, but I wish that I lived in New Orleans so we could go hit the courts.
Well, come on. It's one of those sports, easy to learn, hard to master.
Yes. Yes. I definitely am appreciating, though, that when I'm playing it outdoors, people say, wow, you're the youngest person I see playing out here. I mean, I don't get the youngest anymore playing sports, right? So it feels good.
Stop the youngest act, girl. We're in trouble territory here. But I don't know if you, please share anything I haven't managed to get out of you that you want to share about the book.
This has just been a fantastic conversation. I am so grateful to you. I'm grateful for the people who are on right now. I'd love to take any questions they have. I hope that in some small way, the book resonates with you, with the readers, that it helps you to think about your own life, that it inspires you to go do that thing that you want to do. So thank you. This has just been amazing. I really appreciate it, T.
Other way around. Like you talk about the universe, and I don't know however we got together. When I'm halfway through that book, I was saying, thank you, universe, that this happened. So
I love it. Well, we're just going to have to do this again in person and have cocktails afterwards.
Yes, with drinks, because one of my books is called In the Land of Cocktails. It's a cocktail book, and I consider it my greatest business accomplishment that I got someone to pay me to write about cocktails. So anyway,
that's amazing. I do have one question for you on that note, because I know you've written a bunch of books, and I know Miss Ella came out 5 years ago. Do you have any advice for me, looking back on your experience of having written a book, now that you've, are several years from it?
you know, you and I mean, again, the same thing. That book was so personal. And I think we're probably the same that I had to get that one done before I was going to be able to do anything else if I haven't decided to go through the pain of that. But I can sense from you that you've done that. So if you have other things you are considering, I think you need to seriously consider it because you have a gift. And I do think we're lucky to have gone to Newman, and you're talking about Peyton's forward. And I'm like, oh, his little English did well by him at Newman. You have a gift, and you should take seriously when the world did that to me too. You got to write this book. You got to write this book, you know, whatever. So listen to that and do it, girl. That's my advice.
Aw, thank you.
Ladies, I think we have one question, and then we're gonna go ahead and end the event. Corinne, do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. It's not a question. It's just a comment, Katie. I love the fact that this started at age 13 and your mortification when your mother yelled in the restaurant. You remember when she talked about going on the trips around to see the different ball fields, and she made a loud noise and you were mortified and embarrassed. I love that it went from that to this because it's the way life should be, and I love it. So I'm looking forward. I've ordered the book. I'm very much looking forward to reading it.
Oh, thank you.
Your mom went to school with her for golly Moses, I don't know, from nursery school or kindergarten through 12th grade. So.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you so much. That's such a great point. I really appreciate it. Tell me, is there something that you remember about my mom that you would want to share? Something about her that sort of sticks out in your mind about going to school with her for all those years?
Well, first of all, she was very smart, but always a lot of fun. And she had a very good sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad to know she was like that from the time she was born, because I certainly saw that as her daughter.
I love that in your first line of your book, you wrote about her speech, because I could not talk to her on the telephone. I had to see her face to face. So I could not understand her.
I think a lot of people were in your same situation. I think that oftentimes I didn't even understand what she was saying. You had to be a decoder. And it's that New Orleans.
She's the smartest person she's ever known. She was so brilliantly smart.
No.
Something ahead of me.
And I hope we can take a few more comments or questions. If we have
I was going to say one more thing is my husband commented when I told him that I was going to be on this call, and he said, oh my gosh, Ann Russell, I remember eating at the restaurant there. And so that was a long time ago, and he still remembers. So I was
I love that. I think that's the beauty of, you know, what tea does, right? Is that you create experiences for people around shared meals. And it's oftentimes those shared meals where poignant conversations, just like the baseball trip, and big ideas happen. So Thank you for sharing that.
I remember your mom let me have my 13th birthday party, and I was able to have all of my 7th grade class from McGee's at Gautro's. And they served us, we had 2 tables, and we had Diet Cokes and Cokes and the wine carafes, and she was so generous about it, and she was so generous to her. She was one of the most generous people that I ever knew. Would you agree, Mom?
That's why she never made any money, because she was always giving everybody free meals.
That sounds about right. That makes sense.
And then one time I went to Gautro's, and there was someone in a gorilla suit sitting in the back of the restaurant, and I do believe it was your dad, and he left on a motorcycle with your mom on the back.
Well, I believe that they then came to my birthday party at the house, because they arrived on a motorcycle in a gorilla costume while we were all in the bouncy castle, and we fled. It's actually in the book, I think, if I remember correctly. So they must have left the restaurant there and headed back to the house to my birthday party. Friends still talk about it.
It's a special treat, Katie. This has really been fun, especially since my mom and I are together here to be here with you. So it's been lovely.
Oh, thanks for
I have 2 daughters who love baseball. They are crazy for baseball. So
yay! Yay.
With him too. So go
I
Brave.
love that. That's awesome.
Awesome.
But thank you very much, ladies, for joining us tonight for this event. And everybody who tuned in, we sincerely, sincerely appreciate it. I put the link in the comments to Katie's book. You can get it from our website or you can call us. We have signed copies.
Okay, signed copies. That's what we want.
We do. We have signed book plates that Katie
Okay.
signed to us and mailed. So if you order it from our website or if you give us a call or stop in if you're local, you will get a signed copy. And that is a wrap, ladies.
Yay. Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Go get them, Katie. Go get them.
Cheers.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, top seller, here we come.